You're listening to The Black Woman in the Corner Office, the podcast for women who lead, influence, and carry a whole lot more than what shows up in their title. I'm your host, Dr. Ebony Stone, and each week we talk leadership, power, community, and what it really takes to rise without losing yourself. If this conversation resonates, go ahead and subscribe so you never miss an episode. First half of 2025, we don't know how many have lost their jobs. DEI is illegal. When did it become illegal to say we want to be fair, we want to be diverse, we want to be inclusive? We're burnt out, right? Everywhere. People, I see you. Yes, we are burnt out. And then you hear quiet quitting. Just let that sit with you for a moment, right? When systems fail us, community sustains us. And that's why we're here today. I'm Dr. Ebony Stone, and this is the Black Woman in the Corner Office. Thank you, guys. All right, so I get the honor of introducing this incredible panel, right? So I am going to start right here to my right with Wendy Batiste Johnson. Wendy is the CEO of United Black Mothers of America. Amen. I met Wendy, I don't know, honestly. It feels like forever, but I think it hasn't been a year. I don't think it's been a year, but it feels like forever. Our first phone conversation lasted long enough that we were like, we didn't talk about anything we were supposed to talk about. We were like an hour and a half in. But Wendy has built an amazing community. I find the story about how that community was built to be amazing. So I'm going to ask Wendy to take a moment and just tell us about you and the community that you're building.
Thank you, Dr. Ebony. First, I want to congratulate you on such an amazing milestone here today. And thank all of you for welcoming me to share more about myself and UBMA, United Black Mothers of America. In 2020, as most of you know, we were in the heart of a global health pandemic. And what I noticed were that women, specifically Black women, were struggling not only with mental health, but also with their physical health. And we were not going to our mammograms, we were not going to see our physicians, some were not even leaving the home. And it was at that time that I decided to activate, and I sent a random text to a group of women, and I said, meet me at Belle Isle, and let's go for a wellness walk, because we need to be in community together. And to my surprise, a lovely group of women, a very intimate group of women joined me. We walked 4 miles that day. We laughed, we cried, and we were in deserved community together. And we have been walking and talking together in meaningful, healthy ways since. We just celebrated 5 years of UBMA this past February. And I could clearly elaborate more as we continue to speak, but the purpose of the organization is to serve as a space, a safe space for Black women to learn, to be heard, and to be healthy. And so we have partnered with Henry Ford Health System, where we bring in physicians and health professionals to speak about diseases and ailments that target the Black community and that disproportionately impact us, so that we are not only aware, but we are proactive in how we move on a daily basis with our health and wellness. Because what I say to everyone is that we deserve to be healthy and well.
Amen. Yes, we do. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you for being here. Next, I'm going to introduce to you Sherry Crowley. We were just talking back in the back. Sherry and I met when our daughters were going into kindergarten, and they are now in second, third year of college. That's crazy. Sherry is the CEO of Pretty Brown Girl. And so, Sherry, why don't you tell us a little bit about Pretty Brown Girl for those who don't know, and what that community is about.
Absolutely, and again, thank you so much, Dr. Stone, for creating this space for us as Black people, because we don't leave the men out as well. But really, we are under attack. So I appreciate, and just congratulations on you walking in your purpose and your power.
Thank you.
Yes. So Pretty Brown Girl is a movement that I cannot take credit for. I give all of the honor and glory to God. And when God says go, guess what we need to do? We need to go. So it's actually been 16 years now that we have been servicing Black and brown girls across the globe. We've empowered over 100,000 girls in schools and communities. But it started with my two daughters, Layla and Aaliyah. They were 4 and 5 at the time. And I planned a trip to American Girl Place when I lived downtown Chicago for my daughter's birthday. And the only Black doll was a freed slave that we purchased as Black people to represent the most painful part of our history at a doll store. Did not make sense to me. And the month after, Anderson Cooper reconducted the doll test that was done, showing that when they put the dolls in front of the children, which doll is the pretty doll? And they would pick the white doll. Which doll is the ugly doll? We know that story, right? And then they say, which doll looks like you? And as a 5-year-old Black girl, seeing her have to point to the Black doll that she just said those negative connotations about. And then when we moved back here to Detroit, because my mother, who is now in heaven, was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And she was a school teacher, she was a counselor, she was a motivational speaker, author, poet, and the testimonies from people in the community telling me how much she impacted their lives caused me as a mother to say, what will people tell my daughters? How am I using my gifts and talents and skills to uplift my community? I was living in a penthouse, living the life of my dreams. But yet and still there was more. How many of us know when there's more? We know we've checked all these boxes, we've got all these degrees, and we're like, this can't be it. Because it doesn't equal joy and fulfillment. And so we started over again with that quest for God to show us what He wanted us to do. And so responding to my daughter's experiences on top of when we got here, them being the only Black girls in their classroom, that became my prayer to help uplift them. And one day my husband woke them up with the affirmation, good morning, my pretty brown girls. And that settled in my spirit. It sparked something in me. And I Googled it. And there was nothing but pornography on the other side of that Google search. See, we can either complain about something or we can do what? We can do something about it. I purchased that domain. So if you got an idea, don't wait. Go secure that domain. 4 days later, someone tried to buy it from me. And we created our own doll. And that doll sparked the movement that now has been in community for so many years across cities and states, as well as at Howard University, Florida A&M University. But we give girls space with our leadership programs and our community service, and we've given over 150 girls scholarships to college. So this is really a work that I'm just honored to be able to be called to do.
Amen. Thank you, Sherry. Listen, this has nothing to do with community, but you said you purchased that domain name.
Yes.
You guys, I don't even know what year it was, but I remember I got a bonus check, and I went and I checked, and ebonystone.com was available. And it was $1,500. And I remember saying, somebody want to see that. And I bought it. I didn't have a business. I didn't have anything. And so somebody is sitting out here with something on their mind. Just go buy the domain name. They're usually about $10. I don't know why ebonystone.com is $1,500. You get it for about 4 or 5. But I bought it, and it is now in use. But it's in use probably 7, 8, 10 years after I bought it. So I don't know why. That just spoke to somebody out here.
That I meet so many women, and they're telling me their business name that they went and got the LLC for. And I say, I'm going to get it next month. I say, look it up. And it's gone. Don't let your dream happen without you winning.
That's right. Go get that domain name before you do the LLC. Because you can get an LLC.
You can get an LLC.
Right. Yes. All right. And to my left, I think I have known this beautiful lady over 30 years. So I met her when I was born. Right? And I said to myself, we can't have a conversation about community and what it means for us in the Black community without grounding it in faith and talking about our mental well-being. And so I asked Beth Baker Callan, I'm going to remember the Callan. There was no Callan when I met her when I was born. This is Beth Baker. I am going to ask her to tell us a little bit about her practice, She is a therapist, she's a coach, she's an author. I'm going to ask her to tell us a little bit about that and how, what that means for community. Amen. Thank you, Sherry. Listen, this has nothing to do with community, but you said you purchased that domain name.
Yes.
You guys, I don't even know what year it was, but I remember I got a bonus check, and I went and I checked, and ebonystone.com was available.
There you go.
And it was $1,500. And I remember saying, somebody want to see that. And I bought it. I didn't have a business. I didn't have anything. And so somebody is sitting out here with something on their mind. Just go buy the domain name.
Don't think
They're
about it.
usually about $10. I don't know why ebonystone.com is $1,500. You get it for about $4 or $5. But I bought it, and it is now in use. But it's in use probably 7, 8, 10 years after I bought it. So I don't know why. That just spoke to
Because
me.
there's so
Somebody
many
out
people
here.
that I meet so many women and they're telling me their business name that they went and got the LLC for it. And I say, I'm gonna get it next month. I say, look it up. And it's gone. Don't let your dream happen without you winning.
That's right. Go get that domain name before you do the LLC, because you can get an LLC.
You can get an
either.
LLC. Yes.
Yes. All right. And to my left, I think I have known this beautiful lady over 30 years. So I met her when I was born. Right? And I said to myself, we can't have a conversation about community and what it means for us in the Black community without grounding it in faith and talking about our mental well-being. Yes. And so I asked Beth Baker Callan, I'm going to remember the Callan. There was no Callan when I met her when I was born. This is Beth Baker. I am going to ask her to tell us a little bit about her practice. She is a therapist, she's a coach, she's an author. I'm going to ask her to tell us a little bit about that and how, what that means for community.
Sure. Well, first of all, again, thank you, Dr. Ebony, for not only having me here to be a part of this amazing experience. I'm so proud of you as your sister in Christ, as your colleague in this industry, and to you, to my beautiful other sisters that we serve this community together. So I just wanted to pause and say thank you for that. So Pace and Associates was birthed out of my own personal pain, and so a lot of times, you know, we grow up wanting to do something or we read about something, and I've always been in the industry to help people. Even as a small child, I always wanted to serve. I didn't know exactly what capacity, so as you get older, you develop your skills and your talents, but what happens is life hits you, and then pain and trauma comes upon you, and so I prayed and I asked God to give me purpose in all of that pain, so that it wasn't just for naught, it wasn't just for to say that's what I experienced, and we can get into that in another entity in terms of that pain. We don't. There's no redemptive glory in pain, but I wanted to be able to pour all of that energy, a lot of negative energy, into a positive aspect. And so out of that, I birthed PACE, and it's PACE, P-A-S-E, and it actually stands. It's the 4 different types of love. You have the P for pathos, you have the A for agape, which is God's kind of love. You have the S for storge, which is more erotic love, and then you have the E that's for more of the erotic. And so there's a different types of love that make up of a human being, and at the center of that, obviously, is my core belief and my faith. I'm a believer in Jesus Christ. I make no apologies for that. And so as human beings, we have to be well-rounded. And so I've had the business legally since about 2014 and didn't do a lot with it. It was like, I kind of helped people here and there. And then in 2019 going into 2020, as you all know, the pandemic hit and life hit all of us. And so out of that adverse situation, I was catapulted into an entire practice. And so I'm grateful to God for the opportunity, because certainly mental health is just as vital, if not as vital, as our physical health. And as a community, and we'll talk more about that as we go through this segment here today, the ability to be in tune with your mental health and know when it's not in alignment is just as equally, if your blood sugar was out of alignment or your cholesterol was out of alignment. It's so many of us walking around that have no idea to the detriment, because our mental health is just not healthy. And so I'm hopeful to be able to invest here today and be able to empower and enlighten and encourage everyone here, and those who are here in the live audience and those who are in the virtual audience, to be uplifted. So I'm excited. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you. so we're going to get started with some questions, but before we do, can you guys all turn around and look at that screen? So that's me on the screen, but I think there are about, you see the names along the right-hand side? There are about 10 or 11 folks who are joining us in the virtual world. Say hey! So we got some folks out there in Louisiana, North Carolina, of course here in Michigan. So you guys, we're going to be engaging with them while we're here as well. And so I just want to take a moment, Beth, what you said about knowing when your mental health is not in alignment, right? We all need to be in touch with our mental health. So another public service announcement. If you guys know me, if you read my book, The Power of the Pause, you know the last couple of years, I went through a healing journey. And I believe that everyone needs a therapist. If you don't have one, grab Beth's card. Right? You don't have to, or just text me. I'll give you her number, right? You don't have to let everybody know, but everybody needs a therapist, whether you're meeting with them weekly, monthly, every other month. At some point, you're going to need to engage because we go through life, and sometimes life be lifing, right? And you need somebody to talk to, and sometimes it ain't the people in your house, it ain't your girlfriend. Sometimes you need to just talk to an objective party that understands how the mind works. All right? So we're going to go ahead and get into it. For those of you out there in the virtual world, we are not forgetting about you. We got somebody behind the scenes that's going to be talking to you and communicating what you're saying to us. So what I want you guys to do is go ahead and drop in the chat what community means to you. And we're going to go ahead and open up with some questions. Y'all ready for these questions?
Yes.
All right. So Wendy, I told Wendy in the back she was going to be first. She was like, oh, girl. Okay. So all of you guys have built amazing communities and supported Black women in the Black community. Unfortunately, in our community, we hear that we as women just can't get along, right? Especially Black women. Or, better yet, that we just are the strong Black women that need to do it by ourselves. We don't need any help. So can you tell us how we build spaces that center on safety and celebration together and get rid of that isolating belief that we just have to do it all ourselves?
Before we continue, if you've ever felt the pressure to perform, produce, and prove while carrying everything else, I wrote The Power of the Pause for you. It's a practical guide to leading with clarity instead of burnout, and it's available now, along with corner office apparel designed for women who mean business. Check the show notes for your link so you can get your copy or you can get your t-shirt. Oh, and if your organization is looking for a host, facilitator, or speaker who understands leadership and lived experience, you can book me directly at drebonystone.com. All right, let's get back to the conversation.
Well, that's a great question. And I believe that a large premise for why UVMA was founded was specifically in 2020, the isolation was inflamed. It was exacerbated. And prior to that, I believe that we were not communicating with each other. So these gadgets, these phones, and we don't have our phones with us, hallelujah, right now.
Amen.
But we had been consumed with communication via electronics, and we had lost the communication in person. So I remember one. I think it was a summer. Oh no, it was in October, and my husband and I had gone on a vacation, and I decided to take a book with me. And I recognized that I had not physically read a book in a while because I was listening to books being read to me. And I was sitting on the beach and I was reading this book, and ironically, this book, it was by this woman named Rada, and I will get you the name so you can share it with the audience, but it was about building community, the irony in that. And she was saying how she would go dancing with friends and how she would intentionally invite people to join her in person. And for me, I said, I miss that. That's what we are missing, the touch and feel. Even when, you know, I have a background in retail real estate. I was actually telling Beth that I was the former general manager at the Mall of Partridge Creek for 7 years. And so I understand the need to touch and feel what you're purchasing, right? And to touch and feel, to have conversations with people. You know, ages ago in my 20s, I owned my own retail business. So I am a social butterfly. I'm also a Libra, so that says a lot. Okay, that says a lot. So, you know, as we were evolving with time, and you know, online shopping was taking us away from that interaction. You know, the phone, social media, we were losing communication. So to answer your question about how we build community and how we sustain it, we need to get back to being in community physically with one another. And I think it's a false narrative that they say, you know, we can't get along. First of all, Black women are the foundation of building communities. We know this. We don't need anybody else to tell us otherwise. And our thing is, we love being together. I have always, I mean, look at this space. You know, we have always thrived in spaces where we empower one another. We just need to get back to that.
Thank you, thank you. So I am an introvert, so I literally love spending time by myself. However, one of the things that is totally opposite of my introverted self is that when I get to be in spaces like this, I always say there's like a switch that's flipped, and I feel amazing. People were asking me this morning, like, you okay? And I'm like, I am super calm because I knew this was coming. And I think it comes from that, right? It comes from just being with one another, being physically in space with one another and building that community. Thank you so much. Sherry, you're up next. All right. So as you're working on expanding Pretty Brown Girl into the collegiate ranks, which I think is absolutely amazing, you're working across generations, right? And right now, there seems to be like a schism across the generations. Like they're not getting along, whether it's Generation X, the millennials, Gen Z. How do we bridge that gap and grow cross-generational communities of support amongst not only Black women, but the Black community as a whole?
And it's all interconnected. I will say that I think that we're all headed we all want the same destination, just a different path to get there.
Yes.
And there is no straight line. When we talk about being at peace, being in alignment, which is the name of my upcoming book, and in alignment with your assignment, there is no straight line for that.
About intergenerational connectivity, and particularly, as Wendy indicated, social media has created a divide. The technology, we can use it for good, and I know that for me, Facebook was the way that my movement started, my organization started, our Pretty Brown Girl, but at the same time, we saw a specific decline in the social emotional well-being of our young people, right? When you're taking all of your cues about your self-confidence, who you are, your identity, who you are not, you're exposed to more information than you would have never had that's taking away the innocence. And then you have a generation that don't understand it, then that becomes a disconnect because we're no longer, as Wendy said, we're not even in physical community with our children. So we're seeing suicide rates on the uprise, depression rates, anxiety, and the conversations that we used to have with that cool aunt that would come by, pick us up, get us together, and make sure that everything was okay, and not tell our mom unless it's real bad. That's gone. She's exhausted, right? Mama's exhausted. We're not okay, so the children are not okay. So when we see that our children are not okay, our community is really broken. And so the differences between the generations, I think, goes back to communication. How many times have we just laid across the bed and said, not just how was your day, but okay, so tell me about what this friend is doing. And then what did she say? Not judging, allowing them to be free and to trust and to build that trust up between adults, and then even where the grandmother used to be in a space to hold everything together. When we talk about health and wellness, physical health and wellness that we get from physical, even exercise and moving our bodies, but also being able to communicate our feelings, and we have so many different levels of trauma. When we talk about 400 years of slavery, and we talk about now where in between that time we've had our own businesses, we've sustained ourselves, we've had that sense of having a tribe to be able to build together. We're in silos, and so I think that when we focus in on the principles and the values that we have that are really centered around family. Right? When we talk about different generations, but we're saying we're in a family where we're not talking to each other. And even though we know have our boundaries, right? Which is important for us to have. But the family is the nucleus for our community. Where there is no community without family. The family structure. So I feel like it's really about having this type of dialogue and then carrying that in throughout the home.
Yes, absolutely amazing. So thank you for that. We also joked back in that room. I was telling Beth that she said her mother is the same way. I don't care if I say I'm about to go do a cartwheel in the middle of 696. My mama gonna be blocking off entrance ramps and telling people you can watch from up there, just don't bring your car, right? We need our families. We have to have the families together. Thank you for that. So Beth, question for you. So, and I'm going to change it just a little bit, not a whole lot. So I heard both of these ladies talk about the need to put our phones down, right? And while they were talking, so many of us go to church online. We don't even go to the church building anymore, right? We just go to church online, and we're watching the reactions, the hearts, and all of that go across the screen. Talk to us a little bit about what the church means in building community, and also how that impacts our mental well-being, because I believe that it does.
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. So, as a PK, right, I'm a pastor's kid, and have been for the last 50 years now. So my take is just a little bit different. I mean, and not to be biased, because you know, as you grow in the faith, you have to come to your own relationship with God. Obviously, you know, you can go to church, you can play church, you can practice church, right? But you know, it comes a point where you gain your own personal relationship. So I think you have to be engaged in a personal relationship with God, and oftentimes people are not in a relationship. So it's ritualistic.
Yes.
So why do you go to church? Oh, because that's what my mom and dad told me I had to do. You know, get up, we go to Sunday school, we go to church, we go to all these different events or whatever. And there's nothing wrong with any of that. But if you're not engaged yourself, as you become of age, sadly when the pandemic hits, or when there's, you know, heaven forbid there's, you know, water damage at your church or whatever causes that physical church not to open, you go another way. But when you're engaged with that, you cannot not go somewhere in the house of worship on a Sunday, Saturday, Thursday night, Tuesday night. It doesn't even have to be your own home church, so to speak, but your conviction will lead you there. And so I truly believe that, and I don't want to step on too many toes, but if I do, just say ouch. But there's a lot of people they play church, and so I question the conviction of people because of the so much online. Yes, we had to shift to the online platform, obviously, in a pandemic, but as we know, the pandemic is over, so now what's the excuse? Right? And so the importance of the church, I mean, it's the cornerstone of community. Obviously, in the African American world, that's really all we had, you know, where we could be safe, where we could not be ridiculed, where we could not be judged. And sadly, social media has used the church in it's kind of pimped the church, if you will, sadly. And so I think it's important that you not only to not forsake to assemble, that's what the Word of God says, to forsake to assemble. Now, if you're physically ill or you convalescent or incarcerated, okay, you definitely get a pass, right? But I think in terms of you being physically able to come to a house of worship, so once you get there, though, and this is a piece where I think it's important for the church, is to welcome you, right? We talk about come as you are. No other place do you come as you are. You come to work appropriate. There's a dress code at work. So we have this mentality at church. Well, just come. Well, come, cover up the necessary parts, right? Be in order. You're coming to God's house. But I think we have to balance that. So we don't want to turn people away, but we want to be in order when we come. right? So that we are we're appropriate. But as far as once you get to the church, making sure that the church house is a place in my line of work what we call being psychologically safe, to be not ridiculed if your hair doesn't look amazing, or if your makeup is not as flawless as all of ours, thanks to our beautiful sister Taylor, who got us all together. So to have those, things together to come to worship. But sadly, when you get there, you want to be welcome. You want to be received. So it's important that so that the people that are at church, they're mature enough to be able to say, you know what, I see you're struggling. I see what come in that sense, come as you are. Because God sees us in our birthday suit anyway.
Yeah.
Amen.
Right?
Amen.
Yeah. So I think it's important that the church is the entity that it's called to be, and not a social club or a place where we go and barter with others, or a fashion show. Or it's to serve and uplift God's people.
Yes, thank you for that. Amen. Amen. All right, so for any of you guys, I have a question. And then for those of you out there in the virtual world, I'm going to ask you to think about this as we go into this question. Is there a woman who would benefit from being in community with you? And if so, how are you reaching out to her? And here's the question. What responsibilities do we have, or are we responsible, once we find or build community, for creating it for others?
Yeah.
And how do we do that?
You want to take it?
Oh, I guess I can start. I feel like we all have
I know,
to
we're
answer. Well, to your first question, not only is there a woman that I believe deserves to be in community with all of us, but I believe that just we as a people deserve to be in community together. And I mentor young girls who are in high school and some in college. And I always say, because I remember when I was in high school, and I had, and it resonated with me when you talked about your daughters going to predominantly white schools, because I went to a Catholic high school, predominantly white. I was like the chocolate chip, a lonely chocolate chip. It was Marion. Okay. And so, and by the way, I had a wonderful experience. So, shout out to Marion. However, there were challenges that I had to independently face because my mother had not faced them. So when I speak to young girls who are facing similar challenges, I want them to know that although we're generations apart, I am your community. Amen. Okay, and you can lean on me. You can call me for questions. My son is here in the audience. He's 20 years old. He's a sophomore in college. He is learning the value of community right now. And it's something that my husband and I preached to him for a long time. But I will tell you that we have to come into our own. We have to be ready to welcome it. I'm sure you guys have heard the saying, sometimes we can be crabs in a bucket.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, sometimes that's true. And that's because we harbor this fear that is generational, okay? But we have to be ready to want to be at the top with all of our friends. Like, we have to be ready to welcome them and pull them up with us. And so I think that's something that is a learned behavior. And when I talk to these young girls who are in these situations where they're feeling alone and they're feeling intimidated, even when I talk to my son, I tell them, as long as you're in a space of welcoming and openness, and also staying faithful to yourself and to God, you will always be that one in the bucket that's pulling somebody up. And maybe there's going to be someone above you that's pulling you up with you. And so that's the type of generational change we all have to thrive to to make happen. I mean, there's no doubt that we have challenges in our community, but we can't. I never want to hear the focus on what's wrong. Let's worry about how we can make those results. We can change that wrong into right. Like, what can we do to change that? And so I always tell my son and these young people, worry about the resolve. Like, so don't focus on the problem. What can you do to resolve it?
I was going to say that I echo what you said, sis, because for me, community is organic. It's an extension. It's not something that we create. I believe that my success in building the community that God assigned me to do is because it was from the natural needs of what the people asked for. So when Black women saw Pretty Brown Girl doll, they said, well, this is what we needed when we were growing up. We needed a safe space to talk about colorism or the comments that we're getting because someone called us dark skin or light skin, or us not feeling, comfortable in who we are and how we're showing up. I was trying to sell a product. My goal was, I'm going to be like people on Shark Tank and sell a doll. And you all are asking me how you can join something. But I learned very quickly that my blessing was in my obedience. And not overthinking and allowing for God's plan to override my plan. And in doing that, I would have been out of business a long time ago on that doll, although Shark Tank did call me twice since then. But God had a whole nother point. So in being obedient and following and extending community to the audience that I was wanting to serve, and establishing over 250 chapters within 18 months, showed me that it's better to be pulled than to try to project our expectation on what others would want because we think it's a good idea. So it was on my lived experience. And so I think that women, when we talk about uplifting others, and I believe in seed time and harvest. I believe that is God's law. And I've experienced it. Everything that I'm doing is because God has led those breadcrumbs and I'm just following. I'm not able to think it up. I have multiple degrees, but that's not where my blessing comes from. I'm able to activate on those degrees. I'm able to activate on my experiences and apply them to build kingdom. So when I look at that and I think, would women need this? Who wouldn't want to be a part of mentoring Black girls in high schools throughout the United States? When we remember that time and the voice that we needed wasn't always our mothers, right? So we're able to stand in that gap and make sure that they're okay. And then on the other side, girls who call us themselves, and some of the young ladies I met as soon as I walked in say, hey, I was in Pretty Brown Girl at Cass Tech, and we have 200 girls that show up every single week after school when they could be doing anything else. But it's a lifeline for them to know that they belong and for them to be able to be seen and heard and to be able to cry and laugh and vent and remember who they are on the inside so that they can walk into those dreams that they have. So I'm excited about this conversation. It's needed because all of us have a community that we are building inside of us. That we can extend out based on the things that we've seen. As you say, when we see problems, and we know Black women, we are the first ones to call out a crack and be able to name it. So we can either complain about it or then we can do something about it and create our own space for others to be able to join and be of service to them.
Absolutely. So I would be remiss if I didn't say shout out to all the cast technicians out there in the house, right? I know I got some technicians in the audience, and that was just for my mom. My mom is not from Detroit, and she always says, I don't care what people do, they will come back and say they graduated from Cass Tech. Yeah. But I think that's amazing, right? Cass Tech is a community in and of itself, right? People always want to know, like, why are you still talking about that school? And so, yes, I tell people all the time, you couldn't pay me to go back to high school. And it's not because of Cass Tech, it's because of who I was and what I was dealing with and needing the things that you're talking about. But it's a community
100%.
In and of itself. Like those 200 girls are community in and of themselves, and they will take that with them. That's why when you walk through the door, I think it was Micah, it was like, I was in Pretty Brown Girl, right? Yeah. Yes, those things we need as we move on. So, sorry, just wanted to say that.
Yeah, I'm just going to round it out and just want to kind of piggyback on some of what you all have said. But, as a cheerleader growing up, I was a cheerleader all through, my younger lives and all. My dream was to be the captain of the cheerleading, varsity cheerleading team, and that dream came true. But I use that analogy because when I look at community in terms of sisterhood, it's really your sisters, whether they're your biological, and I'm grateful to have two biological. One of is the audience today. My sister Brittany is here, but then my BFF is also here, Maya, who is a sister friend, right? Not by blood, but in terms of that bond, because I look at cheerleaders, well, what do cheerleaders do? They root the team.
That's right.
Right? They go to all of the different events, whether it's football, basketball, volleyball, whatever the sport is. It's not about the sport, but it's about the camaraderie that you support the team. And you also support the team in victory when they win that state championship, when they win that district meet, but you equally support the team when they lose, when they get beat real bad, right? They don't say, okay, we don't need the cheerleaders today. No, you go every single time. So your sisters, your whatever that community, I'm looking at community for me in terms of the sisterhood, they go every single time. You win, they go. You fail, they go. You cry, they go. You laugh, they go. And so that's really important that you are selective with your community. I don't believe you just sashay in any community now, right? I think that's important to know who you are, know who you're with, because eventually people will, if they're not for you truly, they'll die off, and that's fine. And you have to respect that. But I think it's important that as a community, as a people, not just women, but as a people, that we cheer each other on. Hang in there when it's good, hang in there when it's not, and just be loud, right? That's what cheerleaders are. They can be obnoxious, but they're there to support who's on the field. And it may be your week to be on the field. It may not be your week to be on the field. It's our week, right? This is Dr. Stone's season. I truly feel that God has called you to this place, and we are a part of your season. Right? So we're
Thank you. So this part wasn't planned, so I hope she's ready. I think she is, though. Miss Jessica, you're in the back of the room, and I see a whole lot of comments on the board. And my 50, almost 2 years old eyes can't read those. Can you let us know what the folks out there in the virtual world are saying to us?
Yes, so to your first question, what does community mean to you? We have from Miss Tammy, community means to me supporting each other. And from Miss Annette, sharing space, energy, and the desire for all of us to win. And then to your second question, which I could not type fast enough, I build my community by mentoring Black people, young and old, how to benefit and navigate their careers in STEM.
Thank you. All right, so I got another question for you guys out there in the virtual world. I am going to ask this actually of our panelists as well, any of you guys, or all of you guys. I'd love to hear your answer, and I'd like to hear you guys answer. This is our last question before we take a short break, and then we're going to open it up to you guys, right? So we can spread this conversation. And that question is, if a woman is listening right now in this room or on Zoom, feeling isolated or without community at work or just in general, what one thing do you want her to know? Go ahead and drop that in the chat for us. I'm going to tell you what I want, and then I'm going to ask our panelists to join in. And what I would want you to know is that you are not alone, right? You can call me, text me. I like one-on-one conversations. I just told you I'm kind of an introvert, so call me. I'll talk to you for 2 or 3 hours. I will cry with you. Everybody in this room will tell you. I will cry with you if you need to cry with you, right? I will laugh with you. I will dance with you. I will do whatever you need. Just call me or someone. You're not alone, I promise.
I would say to the woman in the room who is struggling with just who you are priceless, right? You really know your worth. Know your worth. You're not compared to any other person or any other thing on the planet. That is amazing. When you think about the awesomeness of how many people, and I don't know the statistics, how many people are on the planet, right? A lot. We'll just say a lot. For lack of
something like 8 billion.
It's a million. It's up there. But to know that there's no other you, now there's probably a lot of people with your name or similar pronunciation of it, or maybe look like you, maybe smell like you, walk and even talk like you, but there's no other you on the planet. So just glorifying the fact that God created you for you. You are of infinite worth and of infinite wisdom in His, according to His view of you, right? And I think we have to be really careful of how we view ourselves according to how other people view. We have what we call comparative living. So be careful to not do that. It's easy to do, oh, is my hair good? Is my clothes okay? I just thought it was so cool how none of us planned the attire today, but we all came out in some type of earth tone. That's amazing, right? But even if I came in a blue or a white or a purple, God made me me, and I have to be my best version of me according to Him. So I empower you to carry out who you are. If you don't know your purpose, ask God to empower that with you and carry out who you are, because you, my sister, are of infinite worth. There is no price tag. There is no amount of hair, makeup, cologne, perfume that you will ever attach yourself to that will equal out to where you are, because you are priceless. So walk in that authority and that assurance.
I 100% agree with what you shared. I think I would add to that you are worthy of love and acceptance. Because I think I know in our community we've come in contact with moms who we have to remind to put their oxygen mask on first, because they're so consumed with giving, that they haven't allowed themselves to receive. And we often tell them, you are worthy of receiving. So whether that is receiving through your relationship and your love of Christ, whether that is receiving through your relationship and your love of your partner, your children, your parents, you are worthy of receiving back. So what I would tell a woman out there is to allow yourself the grace and permission to receive.
Absolutely, and what I would say, first of all, what we say to our pretty brown girls, to ensure that they know that they are fearfully and wonderfully made, and that they can do all things through Christ who strengthens them. But also, as Dr. Stone started off the conversation, we talk about Black women who have given to everything and everybody. And to be in this hour where we feel the most disregarded, disrespected, underserved, with the tension of mental well-being being at its height. And right now, even we're building an additional community for women. We started off with the girls. But guess where the girls are getting their cues from? From mama. And if mama ain't right, ain't nothing right. Because we are the center of the universe. we're birthing nations, right? So everybody is taking from us. We have to replenish so that we can be who we need to be for our girls. And so what God has downloaded to me in this process of getting to the other side of purpose is a surrender. It's important for us when we're at those breaking points. We ain't got no more. We just got to put our hands up. And we got to ask God to show us what He wants for us to do. We can't keep going and overworking ourselves and overthinking into a point where we're going to have anything left. So when we surrender and we say we don't know, we are weary. God, you show us what you would have us to do. So whether that's rest, which is also a responsibility, to be still. We don't have to always be going and doing something for God to be able to bless us. So be still in the knowing, in the surrender, and in the obedience when He shows us, because He will confirm when we call His authority in. He will give us an answer. The question is, are we going to take action on what He has told us to do? When He told us to do it. Because the timing of that is tied to our healing. We've all been there. I think that through that pandemic, as we've talked about on this panel, is that when we go through a time, we have to sit with ourselves and be still and go within. That's work to get through that, to get through depression, to get through menopause. Hello? All of that is
Listen, there is a reason your program is on the fan. 6 o'clock sometimes. And I figured y'all might be. I know just a little bit of the stories of each and every one of these ladies here on the panel, and I can tell you that each of them have lived that, right? And so we are about to take a quick break, but before we do, I got to shout out some people who most of them are not in the room, but I'm going to shout them out anyway. And that is people who believe in this podcast, they believe in this movement, and they have sponsored this event today. And so I want to shout them out. My mother-in-law, who I believe is online, I hope so, who is the proprietor of the first ever Black-owned headstone and monument company, Enduring Memories Headstone and Monument Company. I want a special shout out to Natrina Tate with Brand New Consulting, who also sponsored us today. She thought she might be, she had a conflict. She thought she might be able to peek her head in, so we might still be able to see her today. And then out there all the way from Louisiana is Adrian Reynolds with Empowered For You Consulting. And then I have to mention that gentleman in the back in the white shirt trying to hide his head. My husband of almost 24 years. Who is the owner of the Brownstone Group and the second Black-owned headstone and monument company, Five Stones Memorial. So I just wanted to shout out all of our sponsors. They all believe in this podcast. They believe in this movement. And so I'm eternally grateful for them and their sponsorship. Now, before we take this 10-minute break, I'm going to let you know that when we come back, we're going to be opening the mics to you to ask questions, to contribute to this conversation. We're going to start with the questions from our audience online. So you guys go ahead and pop your questions in, and Jessica will let us know what they are. If you're in the room, get your question ready because we'll be handing you a mic real soon.
Thank you for spending time with me today. If this episode spoke to you, share it with another Black woman who needs this reminder. And don't forget to subscribe. You'll find links to my book, apparel, and speaking information in the show notes. Until next time, lead with intention and give yourself permission to pause. And you know what else? Keep spreading that Black girl magic on everything you do.